Devin, you just got out of court where you were hammering, absolutely hammering the feds over equalization. Now, equalization, it's a big topic. It can be confusing sometimes. Devin, will you just very quickly recap for the folks at home why the Canadian taxpayers is fighting equalization? What's going on?
Absolutely. Here in Newfoundland and Labrador, the provincial government has launched a new lawsuit where they're trying to sue the federal government of Justin Trudeau for more equalization money. Despite not having their own fiscal house in order and running deficits after deficits for years in Newfoundland and Labrador, they're saying that they don't actually already receive enough money from other provinces to pay for it, and thus they're looking for more tax dollars from other provinces that have had their fiscal house in order in recent years. And
Right.
that's why we are looking to get involved.
Absolutely. And let's just talk about equalization as a program for a second here. So equalization is this big multi-billion dollar federal transfer. And the way it works is taxpayers in so-called have provinces, places like BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, pay huge amounts of money to other provinces, mostly Quebec and the Atlantic provinces, with our tax dollars. Does that sound about right, Devin? Am I missing anything big?
Absolutely. And I think the key to it is, this is a transfer program on top of all of the other transfers the federal government already sends to provinces. So on top of health transfers or any subsidies or other programs that they take federal tax dollars and redistribute to provinces, this is on top of that. So it makes even more cash flow taken from taxpayers federally and poured out to certain provinces.
Right, and I can see why that's a problem for people like me who live in BC who pay into this program but don't get anything back from it. But it's also bad for the recipient provinces, isn't it? Can you explain, as an Atlantic Canadian, why equalization is also a negative for those recipient provinces?
Absolutely, it's no better than think of if instead of paying, if you were stuck with a big credit card bill every month, you wouldn't be encouraged to pay it off if you knew somebody else was going to come in and help cover down that cost. It basically creates a cycle of provinces, instead of focusing on getting their own fiscal house in order, know they're going to get saved by Big Daddy federal government. And it creates a vicious cycle in which provinces, instead of focusing on getting their own debt under control, just relies on big handouts from other provinces to cover their costs.
Right, so why would I bother to get my fiscal house in order? Why would I do the hard work of balancing a budget, paying down debt, when I know that I'm just going to get a big bailout from Western Canada? I think that's the mindset with the government of Quebec and some of these other provincial governments in the Atlantic region. No, Devin, you were actually in court today, sort of throwing the first stones against equalization, getting this court fight rolling. What happened today in court?
Sure. So today I was just down the street from me in the Supreme Court of Newfoundland and Labrador here in St. John's, where we took the first step in being added to this lawsuit to ensure the voice of taxpayers are heard. So in court this morning, it was confirmed that our filing to be added to the court fight has been accepted and will be argued next year. And as well, I can confirm we are the first group in Canada to apply to intervene in this lawsuit. And the court has now set a date for the end of January for any other interested parties, particularly other provincial governments or any other interest groups that may want to have their voice of their supporters or their provincial residents heard, to have an opportunity to apply. But we are the first. We're leading the fight in this constitutional challenge. And then next October, even though it seems like a lifetime away, we will get our time in court to argue why the Canadian Taxpayers Federation deserves a voice, why the voice of taxpayers deserves to be heard, and why we need to be involved in this court fight to oppose growing the equalization program.
And Devin, I think you just hit on something really important there. Taxpayers deserve a voice in this court fight. Because right now, the government of Newfoundland and Labrador is suing the Trudeau government for more equalization money. Folks, for the folks at home, do you really trust Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to stand up for you, to represent, to fight for taxpayers? We don't. And that's why your lawyer at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, Devin, is in there giving you a voice, making sure that your interests as a Canadian taxpayer are represented, because we don't trust the federal government to fight for you. So Devin, we've applied for this intervener status today in court. You were out there. What are the next steps? What can our folks at home look forward to? What are we going to do to keep putting the government's feet to the fire on this?
So one, we're going to ready up. We're going to work with our external counsel in preparing a really strong argument for why taxpayer voices have been heard. Here at the CTF, we've been very successful in these intervening motions in the past, intervening in lots of different battles, whether it's against the carbon tax, whether it's against the ban on pipelines, and many other cases involving tax dollars in the last decade. So we already have a strong track record in getting this intervener status approved by the courts, and we're going to be preparing over the next coming months on making sure that we have all our ducks in a row such that we are that no justice of the Supreme Court of Newfoundland and Labrador can look at our application and say that the voice of taxpayers do not deserve to be heard. So it's going to be a lot of hard work in the next few months, a lot of research, a lot of consultation with legal experts, and to make sure that we will successfully be able to get the voice of taxpayers heard in this important lawsuit.
Yeah, and Devin, you're right that we're all the time, the Canadian taxpayers is in court intervening, standing up for taxpayers. But this one's a little bit special for you, isn't it? This one's a little bit different. We're gonna have a new face in the court fighting for us, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, this is a special one for me, not only as it's, I have done some work for the CTF before I took on this role, but it's exciting for me. This is my first battle here at home in Newfoundland and Labrador. And unlike the provincial government, which is asking for more handouts, I'm glad to be a Newfoundlander and Labradorian and an Atlantic Canadian fighting against growing the equalization program such that Newfoundlanders and Labradorians know we need to get our own fiscal house in order instead of just relying on transfers from folks in British Columbia or Alberta, Saskatchewan, who managed to balance their budget, or at least have balanced their budget in the past. I know we're struggling with that a little bit right now.
Oh, it's an uphill battle out here on the West Coast. Devin, thank you so much for joining us and telling our supporters exactly what's going on with this court fight.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to more updates very soon.